I did bring up AVCon for a reason, though. So, previous years, I have done a lot of the game developer interviews. There is a problem that exists in the Adelaide game developer scene. I've been going to AVCon, I don't know, fucking 10 years at this point. Obviously, the older games, they're all good, they're all released. But in the past, I would say 3 or 4 years, yes, you have a couple of new titles that appear and stuff like that, but I'm seeing a lot of the same games. And these are games which I thought would have been released like a year or 2 years ago. And I have seen them at AVCon, not at AVCon with post-release updates, at AVCon with their, beta build, with their demo build, still, a good year or 2 out from release. Some of these games are going to probably release 5 years in, and these aren't massive scale games. These are at least what's supposed to be small scale indie titles. I don't want to call out anyone in particular in the scene, but anyone who anyone who is in the Adelaide scene who might see this, you probably know who you are, and I probably know you. We've probably had a couple of conversations, not about this, but we definitely know each other. And I don't think that this is this isn't some crazy shout out, some crazy oh my god, the scene is collapsing. But I think a lot of developers have really overscoped games. They're not games which would be crazy for a team of 5, 10 people, right? But I'm seeing games that are scoped for a 5-person team, and there's 2 guys working on it. And in many cases, they're not working on it full time because they don't have the money for it. They got to work part time, stuff like that. So they've actually got to spend time doing other things, not just working on the game. And a lot of these games, I think, are going to be super, super cool when they actually release. It's just, who the fuck knows when some of these games are coming out? And it's a problem because in a lot of cases, the games tend to be in a very, very similar state when I play them. Because a lot of people, especially with there's 2 problems. The artistic complexity games, where they have a lot of art assets and there's just a guy who does the art, or even worse, there's just a guy. There's not even a guy for the art. It's the art guy, the programmer, the director. He just does all the same stuff. Then you have the mechanically complicated games. You have the games that have these really deep, really complicated systems. Oftentimes these end up being card games and stuff of that nature. But card games are especially a problem because they're both mechanically complex and artistically complex, because then you need card art, and if you're going to have card fusions, then you need card art for the fusions, then you need this other stuff and this other stuff, and it becomes this problem where you're going to spend a lot of time doing stuff. Now, there is a benefit there if you do have a separate programmer and an art guy. When either the systems or the art are kind of delayed, you do give the other person a lot of time to go and refine that other part, right? If things are held up by the programmer, the artist can go and spend more time in the art. They can clean things up they didn't have time to do before. They can maybe make new art for things like alt art, stuff like that, which just would not really have been viable before. Same thing with the other direction, right? If you're programming stuff, as long as you don't end up creating more art, you can make some of the systems more mechanically complicated. You can work on more complicated AI systems that don't require any new assets. You can work on these more complicated, terrain generation, things like that, where it doesn't add anything else the artist needs to do, but it makes things more, hopefully interesting, but more complicated on you as well. And you can sort of put more of yourself into it. And that's great. But the problem is, these games need to come out, right? These games eventually need to release. And I don't know what's going to happen there. I don't know when some of them are releasing, let alone the fact that there is a game that has been at AVCon for quite a while now. Anyone who has been to AVCon knows the game I'm talking about, who has actually released now, and they were still at AVCon with the same build that they'd been showing before, now as just like a post-release advertisement thing. So we're very much in this lull for the specifically Adelaide game developer scene. I can't speak for Melbourne or Sydney or anything else like that, but Adelaide right now is this very slow kind of time. And there's some games where they do have big teams behind them, but then they were like, let's completely shift up the direction. Let's redo a lot of stuff. Let's rebuild things from the ground up. And you're like, okay, that's great, but especially if you have actual employees, you especially need to release the game, right? It's one thing if you're doing this thing, you started as like a student project at AIE, UniSA, something like that, and then it's like, okay, well, we don't really need to release that quickly. But when there is that time sort of sensitivity, when you have a Kickstarter where you're like, I got money here, I got deadlines to hit, when you got grants and all that, that's the other thing. A lot of the developers who are taking this time to really polish up their games, arguably more than they should, and scope their games way bigger than they should be, a lot of them are then going and applying for grants to make the scoping actually possible. I hope things go well in this scene because I want there to be a strong Adelaide game developer scene because there are people who are really talented in Adelaide. And I don't just mean Team Cherry, right? Team Cherry is obviously in Adelaide. Amazing developers, amazing team. But there are all of these other people who have these great ideas who I think if they can actually finish their game and get it released, are going to do well. And if not on this game, they are going to eventually make a game that sells really well. Eventually, they're going to be noticed because they are making really good work. It's just the game needs to be released. I think a lot of people have this idea of making their dream game. And it's not just dream game. It's like dream software, any sort of thing that you're building up over time. And they make that as their first thing. And with that, you end up having to redo a lot of early stuff, right? If you start programming and then you're like, I'm going to make my dream game. It's a Metroidvania, roguelike, card bullshit, whatever your dream game happens to be. If you started programming with that game, about 6 months in, you were going to rewrite the entire game. And then about a year and a half in, you're going to rewrite the game again. And eventually you have to decide, the code's going to suck. The code's going to suck no matter how many times I rewrite it because I'm just going to keep learning more and more stuff. And if I don't eventually just put it out there, I can be here forever, right? If you have a game, if you have a piece of software and you're using that as like this benchmark forever, you can always improve the code. There's always something you can do. There's always something you can add, especially when you're adding stuff, right? When you're adding systems, then you got a whole nother world of problem you got to deal with. And, yeah. I've got ideas for doing my own game development. Like, this is a problem, right? I have these ideas that I want to do. It's like, not a crazy scoped game either. I don't want to say it just in case someone's like, oh, I'm going to do that thing now. I've got some ideas. It's just a matter of me actually sitting down and doing them. Maybe at some point, I don't know. Who knows? At some point, I might be demoing my game at AVCon. If I do, and you see me there, feel free to say hi. I probably won't bite. Probably. It is weird. It is weird seeing people who I knew from high school, from university, who are now demoing their games at AVCon. Like, I've met a number of game developers, but there is a bunch of people there who I know personally. I've known for like over 6 years, 8 years, 10 years in some cases, which is crazy, right? Because a lot of these people kind of disappeared for a while and were kind of, going into industry, doing their own stuff. So it's cool to see people sort of coming back now that they actually have... I don't know. Look, some of these people I haven't spoken to in a while, so I don't really know what's going on in their personal life, but coming back and sort of doing that thing they initially had that interest for, they really want to just expand upon and like actually make something. And it's kind of inspiring. Every time I see someone that I personally know who has now gone on to actually do some of this game development stuff, it is super cool. And like I am very happy for them, especially for the ones who are doing really well. I've got one friend who is working on a game which is now at about, at least last time I spoke to him, 4 days ago, I think it was at 7,000 wish lists, which might not sound like that many, but for a like first release game, which is very close to being released, those are like actually quite big numbers, and is gonna convert into like a quite large number of sales, which is fucking cool. Like so cool to see that happen. And honestly, again, it's one of those things I'm like, it's not even just, like, it's not the money thing, but it's like, I got these ideas and I want to do stuff. Every time I see someone do well, I'm like, I should go and actually do this. I should actually sit down and properly focus on a project and really see what I can do with it, where I can take it. And hey, if it goes nowhere, who cares? Ultimately, who actually cares? But I don't know. I want to do more programming. It's just a matter of me being along many things in my life, me being lazy, going to the gym, me being lazy, me getting out more, me being lazy. That one I'm at least doing, but you know, you win some, you lose some. I don't know.